Peace, family. Thank you for tuning in again. This is Aurora Divine. I go by Divine Intuition here on YouTube, and I have another topic of discussion. The topic of today's video is Pluto, considered the Black Sun, aka the Shunned Son. So let's set the mood a little and let's begin. So let's lower this a little bit. Alright, cool. So let me start off by saying that a couple of things have been coming up to my consciousness, or like in my face, and I started putting little pieces together, so we're going to just dive right in. I do have a clip from a posting on IG that we're going to look at, and then we're going to look at some of the significant symbology that I've noticed that kind of shows this correlation. And then we're going to take a dive into the etymology of this certain topics that have been coming up associated to Pluto being, or possibly being, the Black Sun, aka the Shunned Son. Alright, family, so let's go ahead. Let's put this on pause real quick so that I can go ahead and bring this to you guys. 1 minute, please.
Stars.
Alright, so let's do it like this. I'm trying to see which way is better. This way is fine. Okay, so this clip is from YouTube. I'm sorry, it's from IG. And it's gonna go ahead and show you something. Now, we're not correlating the different tiers of Earth. I'm gonna show you one thing in particular that stood out above the rest, because I've saw this association to something that the Masonics use as far as the Black Sun. Now, of course, there's different topics we can speak on, whether the Black Sun is really just the sun below the horizon. However, I feel like there's something more, so let's tap in real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna play this now.
In short, we're not on a ball. Our Earth currently consists of 4 concentric rings of physical land, beginning and spiraling out from the 0-point axis at the center of the plane, just like a drop of water that falls into a larger body of water, therefore creating a ripple effect, beginning from its point of impact, concentrically expanding outwards. The very middle center of this vast earthly concentric plane is what's known as the 0-point axis. This is what we refer to as the magnetic North Pole. This central pole is not just a symbolical metaphor, but an actual physical marker said to be a magical, or should I say, magnetic pillar, sometimes referred to as a holy mountain or the tree of life. The first big red pill you're going to have to swallow is that beyond all these dimensional fields of energy from where we are now, in our northern and southern extremities, are other extraterrestrial lands inhabited by other extraterrestrial civilizations. This is what we might call extraterrestrial outer and inner space, extraterrestrial outer and inner Earth.
You guys,
I know, it sounds crazy.
Let me back it up real quick. Did you see that red little dot? The red dot all the way at the bottom, they're trying to say is Pluto. Now, I apologize if we can't see it. Even if I take myself out, you still can't see it as much. But when I was looking this up, they're saying that that small red dot at the very bottom of these concentric planes, right, Earth planes, would be considered Pluto. Stay with me, family, okay?
Each of these 4-dimensional rings of Earth have their own lunar, solar systems and seasons, and their own sun and moons, which would be our current 7 wandering stars. Saturn and Jupiter being the solar sun and lunar moon of the outermost ring, domain, or realm of Earth. Mars and Venus being the solar sun and lunar moon of the next concentric domain of Earth inside that. This Mars and Venus domain would be the main realm beyond our southern Antarctic boundary and the Aurora Australis.
And they're trying to say that that's Lumeria.
electromagnetic field. Then, of course, we have our own solar sun, Apollo, and lunar moon, Artemis, in this domain. And last but not least, Mercury, within the inner central realm beyond our northern Arctic boundary and aurora borealis electromagnetic field. In short,
now that we saw that, let me go ahead and let me pull up a picture and we're going to talk about it. Alright, family. Y'all see this? We've seen this before, right? This is literally what is considered the Masonic compass. This is actually code right here for Master of the Net. Now, I have to be honest, I've actually tapped into this right here, just like that. But not in this fashion. It was differently. Like I knew that this meant something more than just the Masonic symbol, right? If we go all the way down, because remember in that video they just showed us this was Polaris, right? They're saying that this was what, Aryan? Let's just say that. And we're going all the way down and we see that there is a black sun here, right? Well, if we're doing that, which is, it's right here, it's slightly cut off, so I apologize. However, if we are to focus, what was the last planet at the bottom of that video was Pluto. Now, I'll keep that up for a little bit so that we can go ahead and we can tap into Pluto. Yeah, I'll take a note to that. Okay, remember the black sun is down here. Pluto in that previous video that I was just talking about was saying that the it was the last planet all the way at the bottom of the concentric tiers of Earth, right? All right, now the family, Pluto is not considered a planet anymore. So we're going to get into what Pluto means. What is the energy related behind Pluto, right? In astrology, astrology.com, Pluto is known for transformation, regeneration, rebirth, but it's also known as the underworld. Oh, there it is. Pluto also governs crime and the underworld, along with many forms of subversive activity. Of course, it's ruled by Scorpio. Okay, now that we know what Pluto is, it makes sense why it would be the black sun, right? This brings me back to a story about two brothers. Actually, about three brothers, but we won't get into the third brother. We'll get into two brothers, one of praise and one was not praised. One was kind of shunned, okay? Now, this always goes back to the underworld energy, and that's because people do not feel comfortable in speaking about death or accepting death. Death is always a very taboo subject, right? Well, if anyone knows the story of Zeus and Hades, Hades was given rulership of the underworld or the dead, right? Which is why, like, if we've watched the Disney cartoon, and this is bringing me back to Disney for a reason, family. If we watched the Disney cartoon Hercules movie, then we would go ahead and we would see how Hades was very vengeful. He didn't care what actions he had to take, whether it be killing his own nephew, whether it be, you know, coercing whatever the situation is, lying, cheating, like that was his thing. This is all underworld energy. By the way, Pluto was the 9th planet, family, right? 9 is a very strong number. We know that. I looked up Pluto not being a planet anymore, and this is what it said. Now, mind you, I'm using this website, sciencenews.org. The first thing is, for 76 years, family. Interesting, 76 years. 7 plus 6 is 13. All right. So that's already a very strong, significant number. All right. Pluto was the beloved 9th planet. No one cared for this runt. Interesting. Of the solar system with the moon. Charon is also considered the boatman, right? The boatman that travels to the land of the dead or the underworld. But he travels souls from, so I would say maybe from purgatory to the underworld. I'm not really sure. But so again, we're seeing more of this very underworld energy, right? Now, we could literally say that Hades is Pluto. Okay? All right. And so now we're starting to kind of piece things together. So Chiron is the boat or the ferryman, right? Who ferries the souls to the underworld. Okay. So they're speaking about the book The Planets, right? Children identified with its smallness, however, adults related to its inadequacy and it being a misfit. Now, this word misfit comes into play. Well, interestingly enough, Hades could never be anywhere else but the underworld. The underworld was his domain. However, the only action he ever gets, or interaction I should say, is with other dead spirits, other dead souls. And if he is basically the guardian of those souls, he's not really interacting with many lively people, right? I'm not sure if it was just a me thing. However, when I was watching the Hercules movie, and sometimes he would come to Olympus, Mount Olympus, when Hercules was born, that was probably one of the very few times he got to actually be there, because it's his brother's son, it's his nephew, right? He couldn't stay too long, and he actually says he can't stay too long, right? Hades literally says, I can't stay too long. Who else is going to run the underworld but me? That's, and nobody else is, right? So again, this misfit energy is associated to why I say that Pluto is literally the shunned planet, because we're already seeing how this is like an outcast type of energy, right? And this is why I like to pull from other sources, because when they use certain words, it's certain energies, right? Like, let's say NASA or, space.com, they're going to be very logical sense, while other people are able to bring in certain words that I feel come from like a spiritual or from their spirit sense. And so that's why I like to look at other articles, because we get to see more of that energy association than if we were to go ahead and pull from somebody who's writing it more from a logical. They're only thinking about facts, data, and numbers, like very analytical. And that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who's going to bring in some energies that that are very much associated. So again, that's why I look at outsources. I outsource things from like major logical type of like narratives. All right, so I'm just kind of pulling in. So they're just saying that in August 2006, the International Astronomical Union, or IAU, wrote a new definition of planet that left Pluto out. Right? So the new definition required that a body, one, orbit the sun 2, have enough mass to be spherical or close to spherical, and 3, have cleared the neighborhood around its orbit of other bodies. Objects that meet the first 2 criteria but not the third, like Pluto, were designated dwarf planets. So they're actually saying that Pluto has an atmosphere and maybe even clouds. It has mountains made of water ice, frozen of nitrogen, or fields of frozen nitrogen, methane, snow-capped peaks, and dunes, and volcanoes. Why does that sound like 4 different atmospheres, maybe even 5 different atmospheres? Did that make sense? It's a dynamic, complex world unlike any other orbiting the sun. So you have water ice, fields of frozen nitrogen, methane, snow-capped peaks, and dunes and volcanoes. Are they trying to insinuate that the methane, snow-capped peaks are also what created dunes and volcanoes? Percival Lowell hypothesized that a hidden planet 7 times the mass of Earth orbited 40 times farther from the sun. Lowell had searched for what he called Planet X until he died in 1916. The search continued without him. The new planet was thought to be black as coal, nearly as dense as iron, twice as dense as the heaviest earthly surface rocks. I just want to say something, right? Here's even more, and we're speaking on energies, right? Planet X, hidden planet, 45. It was also the 9th planet considered, right? Black as coal, dense as iron. Okay, so we're speaking of lower, denser, darker energies. That's what I'm trying to get to, fam. So all of these are already okay. So what I'm trying to say is everything starts with ideas, right? Thoughts. But it also starts with placing energies, how you're shaping and forming and molding, right? And so all of these energies are actually molding Pluto to what is considered Pluto, which would all be underworld energies. So this is how we kind of like give birth to these things based off of like how we start to place the energies and start molding these energies and molding it to what we see fit, to how we see fit. Okay, so further research showed Lowell had grossly overestimated Pluto's mass. It's more like 1/500th the mass of Earth. Things got even weirder when scientists realized Pluto wasn't alone out there. In 1992, interesting, we go from the 1930s to 1992, okay? So now we're moving along. An object about 1/10 the diameter of Pluto was found orbiting the sun in the deep freeze of space well beyond the orbits of Pluto and Neptune. Let's talk about deep freeze, right? I play certain video games and I've played like every God of War, and the last one that I played was Ragnarok. I believe that there is a portion in Ragnarok where you go into one of the nine levels of, or 9 different realms, and one is a freezing realm, like it's frozen, but it's hell, and you see all of these souls that are basically like moving from right to left, and as you're going through this realm you have to wear like some sort of in order for you to be protected against the severe cold or freezing temperatures, like so freezing that it burns. Does that make sense? Right? That's what ended up happening. So just seeing that kind of reminded me of that. But of course, you know, they already say that space is beyond freezing point. So in 2005, Brown spotted the first Kuiper. I'm going to say the K belt, okay? The K belt bodies that seemed to be larger than Pluto. If Pluto was the ninth planet, then surely the new discovery, nicknamed Xena, should be the 10th. But if Xena was an icy leftover from the formation of the solar system, undeserving of the planet title, so too was Pluto. Now remember, we're talking about why Pluto is no longer a planet, right? So tensions over how to categorize Pluto and Xena came to a head in 2006 at a meeting in Prague of the IAU. On the final day, August 24th, after much debate, whatever, a new definition of planet was put to vote. Pluto and Xena got the boot. Xena was aptly renamed Eris, the Greek god of discord. We have pretty much our 9th and 10th planet. Interesting that the 10th planet they want to name Xena, right? Now, I know that we don't have 12 planets. Naturally, we would think that we have 12 planets because we have 12 zodiacs, we have 12 hours, but we're literally speaking about 0 through 9, if you really want to consider that, right? 0 through 9, or 0 through 10, X, right? But then they name her Eris, the goddess of discord. I don't know, has anyone ever seen the movie The Sandman? The movie The Sandman actually talks about Sandman, which is Morpheus, and Morpheus has sisters and brothers. Well, they're all pretty much children of, I believe, maybe the Muses, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check on that. But then you have you have desire, you have discord, you have despair. There's a lot of D names that come with that, and so discord is actually one of those. But it's not in that movie, you know, it's actually in the mythology. Okay, so consider Ceres, the first of what we are now known as dwarf planets to be discovered. Ceres is actually a moon, isn't it? Located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Ceres was considered a planet after its 1801 discovery. Ceres was stripped of its planetary title thanks to its neighbors. In the sense that the story goes, Ceres and Pluto suffered the same fate. So you see how they call it small fry? Now, even if they are baby planets, and look at the word, okay? Baby, child, infant like, okay? I'm gonna just be honest, family. When it comes to outer space, I really don't believe much of what they say. I just find the energies, okay? And I find the energies based off of, you know, putting energies together. Now, there was a lot of things we've already saw, right? So we saw that Pluto is really associated to a dark energy. Now, when you think of Pluto, you also think of Disney Pluto, right? And so let's talk about that for a minute. Disney, during this time, was actually looking for another character. And so during the 1930s, he saw a picture of Pluto based off of the Pluto planet. Now, I started tapping into this stuff just the way it's coming up to me. And Pluto actually was not Mickey's, but Pluto was Minnie's pet, right? And apparently, Pluto actually had a twin brothers. which were called blood brothers because they were both bloodhounds. There was a previous dog that was called Rover, and then one was called Pluto. All right. And so, blood brothers. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are understanding the correlation that I was just talking about when I was talking about Zeus and Hades, and how Disney started kind of like utilizing, and this Disney is a master grand mason, and so he knows what energies to pull from. However, he also understands the associations of energies. And so, interestingly enough, I'm just going to go ahead and say Rover. When I think of Rover, and I actually looked up Rover, Rover goes back to what we would call a sea robber. Didn't I just say that Hades had two brothers? He had Zeus and he had Poseidon, right? So a sea robber. Literally, that's what Rover means. But if we kind of associate Pluto back to astrological sense, Pluto is in the Great Sea, right? And Pluto really got robbed of being an actual planet. So that was just one association. So we're going to read this part. After the chain gang, that sounds weird, Pluto popped up in his rightful role as a household pet in the Picnic 1930 family. This was the same time where Pluto, the actual planet, got discovered. So it was insinuated, right, that Walt Disney saw the planet of Pluto and he saw what looks like a dog face in the Pluto planet. Oh, and I wanted to show the family this real quick. Do you see this? Well, you guys, this is the astrological symbol for Pluto. But what does it actually look like? Because personally, when I see it, it looks like a mirror. It literally looks like a mirror. Now, let's break things down, okay? This looks like an upside down cross, right? Symboling underworld energy. This looks like it could be half Venus and then half the sun. Literally. A portion of Venus, right? And then a portion of the sun. And you know what is so amazing about when I think of the black sun? I think of what a lot of people would say like Lucifer energy, Luciferian energy, but just Lucifer energy, and how he's associated to like, I don't know what you would say, hell, right? But they say, they kind of like, everyone interchanges using Lucifer, Satan, and then the devil, when Lucifer is actually a light bringer. He could be associated to like a dark light bringer, but dark meaning things that are hidden. Again, we're talking about Pluto, right? But it now, in all association, now that I'm speaking about it, Pluto could literally also be considered Lucifer, just in the sense of like, since he's about transformation, rebirth, death, regeneration, he's also about bringing things that are hidden to the awareness. I want to go back to this one because this is actually illuminating and giving light to both of these, right? And ain't this interesting? Look at what happens. The black sun. The black sun is what's actually reflecting off of the moon, which is why we only see the front side of the moon and not the back side of the moon. The black sun gives us that. I'm just speaking in terms of putting little energetic pieces together. This is not what I'm saying is actual fact. This is me following energetic resonances because a lot of this makes sense. Pluto is considered under, even looking at Pluto as a character, he is called Pup. Pup goes back to Poppet. A lot of these would be like in control of, or like a petting, but it's something that, like, when I think of Puppet, I think of Pinocchio. Pinocchio has no consciousness until he does get illuminated. And I feel like that would be like a death of something. Like a deathless death would be to have a death of the unconsciousness and bringing in consciousness. That would be what would be considered a deathless death, which would be illumination. But we could also say there's something associated to why it's actually showing this perfect symmetrical type of association to the sun and the moon, and then Polaris playing a portion of that as well, where there's like a perfect illumination. So that's all I was gonna say, fam. I just wanted for everyone to kind of see where the energy was going, where the energy was leading, and how me personally, I wanted to get into Mickey and how it's associated to Michael. Mick is associated to a boy, right? But Michael is associated to the word Mickey. Again, Michael is associated to, well, it literally, Mikael literally means who is like God. And if that's the case, then we'd be speaking in reference term who is like God. We can literally say that the black sun could be Lucifer, but the black sun is also what would be considered like things of the subconscious, right? This is all the subconscious area. And doesn't Hades get very jealous of his brother because his brother, sees him slightly less than? Now, I'm not associating and saying that the Hades energy and the intelligence of Lucifer are the same, because they're not. Every entity has its own energy and has its own personality, right? So I'm not going to say that one would feel this way about the other. However, I'm speaking in terms of one feels inferior to the other, as far as like Hades and Zeus, right? And then you have, in essence, you could also have what would be an illumination, but a subconscious illumination based off of the teachings and understandings of Lucifer. And so these are the things that are hidden. So yeah, so that's all I gotta say. I am still open for energy readings, which I will make another video about that. The next video to come, we're gonna dive into one of my other paintings that I did, so that we can see the associations of those energies within my painting and the way that they show in different types of characters, which is going to be very awesome because these characters came out so clear. I can't even make this shit up. Anyways, again, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. This is Aura of Divine, and I am signing off. Peace, love, take care, everyone. Thank you again.